Hello and welcome. It's 8 p.m. You're with the news. I'm Ankita Mukherjee. Let's get started with the headlines tonight. Torrential rainfall in Assam. 8 people have died. 1,500 villages on the banks of the Brahmaputra are flooded and 4 lakh people are affected. NDTV is part of a dramatic rescue in Assam. But that's not all. An orange alert in Bengaluru. 2 workers have died. Now, both places are seeing extremes of rainfall between 1,000% to 2,000% above what's normal for this time of the year. The rupee hits an all-time low of 77.58 to the dollar. This is a record low for the 4th time in 9 days. Meanwhile, the US Fed takes a hard stance on inflation. It will keep raising rates in order to tame inflation. In the United Kingdom now, inflation hits a 40-year high. But just what does retail inflation being at an 8-year high mean? NDTV's inflation check from the Prime Minister's constituency of Varanasi, where 2 rupees now gets you 6 biscuits, not 8. The convict in the Rajiv Gandhi assassination case walks free after 31 years following a Supreme Court ruling. Perarivalan meets MK Stalin and thanks him as the Congress reacts, saying a terrorist is a terrorist. But is this going to pave the way for the release of the other 6 convicts? Hardik Patel quits the Congress in a blow to the party just months before the Gujarat election, takes a swipe at Rahul Gandhi involving chicken sandwiches. Sources say he may join the BJP soon. Punjab farmers on a protest near the Chandigarh-Mohali border say they will end their agitation. The announcement comes after a meeting with Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann, who gives in to their demands. There will come a day when, find out what jury member Deepika Padukone said in Cannes. Our top story tonight, over 4 lakh people have been affected by heavy floods in Assam, triggered by pre-monsoon rains that have also left 8 people dead. Authorities warn the situation could worsen further with the levels of the Brahmaputra now at a high. At least 1,500 villages along the Brahmaputra are flooded, with the water level rising continuously in the last 3 days. NDTV's Ratnadeep Chaudhary joined a rescue mission in Assam's Hojai and gets us this dramatic ground report.
Rescuers of the State Disaster Response Force wading through neck-deep water, carrying 2 children to safety. Since Tuesday, hundreds of stranded people have been rescued from Hojai, one of the worst flood-hit districts of Assam. We are now accompanying a team of the first responders, the village volunteers and the members of the State Disaster Response Force of Assam. They are rushing to a village from where they have received a SOS message.
वहाँ में हमारा लोग फंसे हुए हैं और वो लोग हमें लास्ट कॉल किया है कि हमारा यहाँ हम लोग बच्चे बूढ़े सब एक साथ है, पानी हमारा मतलब घर से ऊपर जा रहा है।
अभी तक तो हम लोग कल दोपहर को पहुँचे हैं, हम लोग गुवाहाटी से आए ना SDRF का, तो कल रात सुबह 5 बजे तक रेस्क्यू किया, पूरा रात रेस्क्यू किया।
A boat takes the rescuers and the NDTV team to Radhanagar village, where many houses are submerged. People and animals huddle together. 45-year-old Sanjay Bayan is having his only meal in a long time in waist high water. Inside his house, water has been up to his neck for the past 4 days. His standing crop has all been washed away, as has been the shop outside his hut. His 80-year-old mother and 2 daughters are being rescued.
आगे लेडीज, आगे सब लेडीज है। हम तो सरकारी से कोई सुविधा नहीं मिले।
मेरा जिंदगी में पहली बार इससे बड़ा हुआ है। लास्ट टाइम 2004 में हुआ था, वो भी इससे थोड़ा कम था, और 2020 में भी था, वो थोड़ा और कम था, लेकिन ये बहुत बड़ा बार हुआ है।
In Hojai alone, over 70 villages are flooded, and over 1,000 villages are affected across the state. Army and NDRF are helping with rescue. The Air Force is delivering essentials to the Dima Hasao district, totally cut off for the past 5 days. And in southern Assam's biggest town, Silchar, the Barak River is flowing above danger mark. This train, stranded at the new Haflong station, is dangerously on the verge of floating downhill.
पानी के थोड़ा पानी के नीचे नहीं गया, बाकी सब संपूर्ण गांव गया है, आमिर गया है, मैं भी मिलता है। अब लोकल जो बोट है, कंट्री बोट, वो लोग भी काम कर रहे हैं, वो SDRF से NDRF से भी काम कर रहे हैं।
These villagers making their way to a relief camp after being rescued from their inundated village by the rescuers of the State Disaster Response Force, even as Assam battles rising flood waters. The challenge for the government is to safely rescue people like them, young, old, men and women who are stranded, inundated in villages by floodwaters, and therefore the focus at this moment is the rescue operations. In Hojai with campuses Sanjay Chakravarti, Ratndeep Chaudhary for NDTV.
In fact, Kamrup in Assam saw rainfall that was 1,171% above what's normal for this time of the year. Yet another example of an extreme weather event, now an all too common aspect of the devastating effects of climate change. It's not just Assam, parts of Bengaluru have seen rainfall that is 2,300% over what's normal for this time of the year. 2 workers have also lost their lives there.
A Mercedes SUV was seen floating due to the incessant rains, flooded streets, underpasses and homes. People had to wade through nearly knee-deep water. Due to the inundation, at least 2 labourers were killed while working at a water pipeline site in north of Bengaluru. The unprecedented rains threw life out of gear. Rains that started on Tuesday around 5 p.m. intensified and lashed heavily till late last night. Several low-lying areas like Naindahalli, Okalipuram, Silkboard, Cambridge layout witnessed heavy inundation. The metro services were restored on Wednesday morning after it was suspended due to a power failure caused by thunderstorms on Tuesday night. Visiting the rain-hit areas, Baswaraj Bommai, the Chief Minister of Karnataka, acknowledged that the work on clearing the stormwater drains have been incomplete. In fact, this particular work, which was supposed to be completed late last year, was left unfinished.
ಸುಮಾರು 800 ಕಿಲೋಮೀಟರ್ ಇದೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇವಲ 400 ಕಿಲೋಮೀಟರ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇನ್ನು 400 ಇವಾಗ ನಾವು ತಗೊಳ್ತೇವೆ. ಹೀಗಾಗಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಮಗಾರಿನೇ ಪೂರ್ಣ ಪ್ರಮಾಣದಲ್ಲಿ ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಳ್ಳದ ಕಾರಣದಿಂದ ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಈ ವರ್ಷ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಪರಿಪೂರ್ಣವಾಗಿ ತಗೊಳ್ಳೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಒನ್ ಟೈಮ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ.
And there has not been much of work that has happened in declogging our stormwater drains. I feel that our drain networks are being used by all the other departments like BWSSB and Westcom, and most of the intersections underground are being blocked.
An orange alert has been sounded for Bengaluru rural and urban areas and coastal parts of Karnataka. And Bengaluru received about 114.6 mm rainfall.
Bangalore city has recorded a rainfall of 114.6 millimeters. We are expecting widespread rains over coastal Karnataka for next 2 days.
We see, the sewage water mixing especially with the rainwater, then spilling onto the streets. Now this is the condition every time there is a heavy rain that's battering the city of Bengaluru. But as far as what really has been done at this point in time, we see that the BBMP is still, the work, especially in terms of desilting of stormwater drain, is still continuing. In Bengaluru with camera person Kumar Srija for NDTV.
The rupee has closed at an all-time low of 77.58 to the dollar. The US Fed has taken a hard stance against inflation, saying rate hikes will continue. Meanwhile, inflation in the UK is now at a 40-year high. Priyachi gets us all the details.
Well, the rupee has hit a new record low for the fourth time in just the last 9 days. Rupee has weakened to a fresh low of 77.58 rupees per dollar. In fact, with this, the rupee has lost over 4% of its value since the month of January. Now, one of the major reasons behind this is foreigners withdrawing from Indian markets as they move to safer destinations such as the United States in times of global stress. With this, there has been a record $20.7 billion US foreign funds pulled out from India this year. The weakened rupee means imports get even more expensive while Indian exports become more competitive in global markets. But the trouble for the rupee does not seem to end. An announcement from the US could drive it further down. The US Fed chairman has said they won't hesitate to keep increasing interest rates in order to tame inflation. Remember, the Fed had earlier said additional 50 basis point increases should be on the table at the next couple of meetings. But now it has an even larger plan. The Fed chairman told the Wall Street Journal that we will keep raising interest rates until inflation comes down. He made his priorities clear, saying we have to get inflation down to 2% from 8% currently after hitting a 40-year high at 8.5%. Now, the plan comes with a significant cost that the Fed seems ready to bear. The chairman said we have to slow growth to tame inflation, and he acknowledged that there could be some pain involved in restoring price stability. Now, what does this warning mean for you and me in India? Rising interest rates drive foreign investors out of emerging markets. They increase the risk of further foreign funds leaving Indian markets, which is one of the major reasons behind the rupee slump. So with this latest announcement from the United States, the rupee could lose even more of its value. But inflation concerns are stressing economies across the globe. Inflation in the United Kingdom soared to a 40-year high and reached 9% in April. It could go up to 10% as the Bank of England had warned, along with serious risks of a recession in the United Kingdom. And after these announcements, the markets ended flat after 2 days of gains. Sensex lost 109 points to end at 54,208, while Nifty lost 19 points to end at 16,240. LIC, the much talked about share, traded flat at 874, which is still 8% down from its issue price of 949. And amid persisting concerns on soaring prices, sharp rate hikes, markets still ended flat as the concerns remain. Those are all the headlines from the markets and the rupee. Back to you.
With retail inflation now at an 8-year high and rural inflation stripping urban areas, what does this really mean on the ground? Well, NDTV did a reality check in the Prime Minister's constituency of Varanasi, where the same amount of money is now buying a lot less, whether it's daily staples like cooking oil or biscuits. Alok Pandey reports.
पार्ले जी पहले इसमें 8 पीस आता था, रेट वही है, पहले 2 का बिकता था, अभी 2 रुपये का बिकता है, अब 6 पीस आता है। ठीक सर, ये जैसे नवरत्न तेल है, पहले हम 220 रुपये का बंडल खरीदते थे, अभी 250 रुपये का बंडल खरीदते हैं। इसमें हमारे प्रॉफिट में कमी आ गई है।
25 kilometers away from Varanasi's attention-grabbing Gyanvapi mosque dispute, in Prime Minister Modi's adopted village Jayapur, 32-year-old Kirana shop owner Manoj Gupta, a BJP supporter and voter, says the price rise-driven impact on his profit margins, especially from small 5, 10, 20 rupee items, is a bigger issue. The rising prices impact, in turn, customers, who are mostly poor villagers.
मतलब आपको ऐसा लगता है कि अगले 6 महीने में दाम कम हो पाएंगे?
उम्मीद तो नहीं है सर।
क्यों?
सर इतना ही महंगाई बढ़ा हुआ है, तेल रिफाइंग सब है, अभी 180 रुपये का 1 लीटर आता है फॉर्चून रिफाइंग।
और आज से 1 साल पहले कितने का था?
पहले सर 120 रुपये का आता था।
मतलब आपको लगता है सरकार का कोई भी दोष है? आपको नहीं लगता?
नहीं, सरकार का तो कोई दोष नहीं लगता है।
क्यों?
A few steps away, Aarti Devi,
who runs a small savings cooperative with other village women, is more vocal in assigning blame. Aarti and her husband, who works in a private company, earn about 25,000 rupees a month, income that supports a family of 8. Aarti says the couple used to save 5,000 rupees a month till last year, but not anymore.
जनता भी दोष दिया है तो सरकार भी दोष दिया है, सबका दोष है.
जनता का क्या दोष है?
जनता जब जिताया है तो महंगाई बढ़ेगा ही, ये तो जनता ही जानेगा.
और सरकार का क्या दोष है?
सरकार जब बना है तो सरकार को सोचना चाहिए था ना सर, कि अब जनता जिताए हमके तो सस्ताई दे, तब तो जनता खुश रहेंगे.
अच्छा, आपके घर में 3 चीज बताइए जिसका दाम सबसे ज्यादा बढ़ गया है, जो आपकी रोज की जिंदगी में जिससे फर्क पड़ता है. कोई 3 चीज गिनाइए.
दाल है, गैस है, तेल है.
5 kilometers away, in the Bhikaripur village, 45-year-old Birendra Kumar Yadav, a milk seller like many others around him, says earnings have been severely impacted in the last 6 months. The price of milk is unchanged at 45 to 50 rupees a litre in 6 months, but input costs are up. The price of choker is now 1200 to 1400 rupees per sack, up by as much as 55% in just a year. Each animal needs to be given about half-litre mustard oil each week, whose prices have risen by 15 to 20 rupees per kg in the last year. Add to this rising costs of fuel used for transportation.
तो मंदिर मस्जिद तो है, आदमी का महंगाई से थोड़ा दिमाग को हटाना कि कैसे इनको खींचा जाए. इसमें भिड़े रहेंगे तो ये सब मुद्दा सब रहेगा, खाना खाएं या न खाएं.
I'm sitting on a bench in the Prime Minister's adopted village, Jayapur in Varanasi, and there's an interesting message here. It says, "Khud ko badlo, Bharat badlega," meaning that you change yourself and India will change. But in these times of price rise, perhaps many could argue that the government too needs to tinker with or change some of its policies so that people, especially in the rural areas, can live with more ease. In Varanasi, with camera person Rajesh Gupta, this is Alok Pandey, NDTV.
A slogan on a bench that probably gives rise to a lot of questions at this point. Moving on, AG Perarivalan, one of the convicts in former Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi's assassination, was released today after the intervention of the Supreme Court, which invoked its special powers. The verdict could pave the way for the release of 6 other convicts in the case, including Nalini Sriharan. The Congress expressed pain and disappointment and attacked the government for creating what it called a situation in the court.
Celebration as Rajiv Gandhi assassination life convict Perarivalan was set free after 31 years behind bars. He was arrested in 1991 for buying 2 9-volt batteries for Sivarasan, the LTTE mastermind from Sri Lanka, to detonate the human bomb that killed the former Prime Minister. Setting him free, invoking its extraordinary powers under Article 142, the top court ruled Governor is bound by the State Cabinet's recommendation. The Governor is a mere handle, and the Governor not exercising his powers under Article 161 can have inexplicable delay, and it can be subjected to judicial review.
எங்க ரெண்டு பேருக்கும் ஒரே ஒரு விஷயம் தான் இருந்தது. இதுக்கான ஒரு காரணம் என்னன்னா, எங்க பக்கம் இருந்த உண்மை, எங்க பக்கம் இருந்த நியாயம், அது மட்டும் தான் எங்களுக்கு இவ்வளவு பெரிய வலிமையை கொடுத்துச்சு நான் நம்புறேன். எங்க அம்மாவுக்கும் இவ்வளவு பெரிய வலிமையை கொடுத்துச்சு நம்புறேன்.
After the convicted served 23 years in jail, in 2014, the Supreme Court had commuted the death sentence to life, citing inordinate delay by the President in disposing their mercy pleas.
மனிதாபிமான மனித உரிமை அடிப்படையில் பேரறிவாளன் விடுதலை என்பது வரவேற்கத்தக்கதாக அமைந்திருக்கும் அதே நிலையில் மாநிலத்தினுடைய உரிமையானது இந்த தீர்ப்பின் மூலமாக மிக கம்பீரமாக நிலைநாட்டப்பட்டிருக்கிறது. மாநில அரசினுடைய கொள்கையில
Perarivalan's mother, Arpudammal, pursued the case relentlessly and became the face of the struggle against capital punishment.
அவனுக்கு தொடர்ந்து இந்த அரசு பரோல் கொடுத்தது, பெயில் கொடுத்தது அடுத்து நீதிமன்றம். அதனால அவனோட உடல்நிலையை நான் நல்லா கவனிக்க முடிஞ்சது. எனக்கு அது ஒரு பெரிய மகிழ்ச்சி. நான் முதல்வருக்கு மு.க. ஸ்டாலின் அவர்களுக்கு நான் இந்த நேரத்தில் நன்றி சொல்றேன்.
This could now pave way for the release of 6 other life convicts, including Nalini Sriharan, her husband Murugan, and 3 other Sri Lankans. It was a dastardly crime that targeted a former Prime Minister. For Perarivalan, this verdict would open a new chapter after being behind bars for 3 decades. It's also an embarrassment for governors involved for failing to abide by the Constitution and instead tacitly what many call towing the line of their political masters. With Sukirti in Delhi, at Jolarpet, with Suresh, Sam Daniel, Find Your TV.
Just months ahead of the Gujarat elections, sulking State Congress chief and Patidar leader Hardik Patel finally quit the party with a parting shot at Rahul Gandhi. He said, "When I met top leaders, they seemed distracted by their mobile phones. Senior leaders in Gujarat are more interested in ensuring that visiting leaders get their chicken sandwiches than engaging with people during yatras. Our leader was abroad when he was needed in India during critical times," he said in the final blow. The Congress, which has been expecting Patel's exit for weeks now, hit back, and sources have said he's in touch with the BJP and likely to join them soon. Punjab's farmers who were on a protest near the Chandigarh-Mohali border have said they'll end their agitation. That announcement coming after a meeting with Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann, who acceded to some of their demands. Ghazali gets us the details.
The first major challenge for Chief Minister Mann versus farmers has ended with the Chief Minister giving in to their demand. The government, which had earlier said paddy must be sown only from the 18th of June, which the farmers say is very late, has now allowed it from 10th June.
14 ਜੂਨ ਤੇ 17 ਜੂਨ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕਰ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਪੂਰੇ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਨੂੰ 2 ਜ਼ੋਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵੰਡਿਆ ਜਾਊਗਾ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਬਾਰਡਰ ਏਰੀਆ ਉਹ ਸੇਮ ਵਾਲਾ ਏਰੀਆ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਦਰਿਆਵਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੰਢੇ ਵਾਲਾ ਏਰੀਆ ਇੱਥੇ ਝੋਨੇ ਦੀ ਲਵਾਈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆ 10 ਜੂਨ ਤੋਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋ ਜੂਗੀ.
The farmers had prepared for a sit-in protest much like their year-long protest last year, demanding not just a change in paddy sowing dates but also a 500 rupee bonus for the recent wheat harvest devastated by the heat wave. However, that demand the state wants the centre to tackle. Farm union leaders have accepted the government's decision and called off the protest.
So farmers have finally agreed to lift their protest. Government has accepted some of their demands, and you can see behind me, these farmers are now leaving the protest site. But this is not going to be the last such protest in Punjab under this government, because farming and agriculture needs structural changes to ensure that very often farmers don't hit the streets to get their demands accepted. In Mohali, Mohammad Ghazali for NDTV.
Delhi's Lieutenant Governor Anil Baijal has submitted his resignation to President Ramnath Kovind, citing personal reasons. He had taken over as L-G in December 2016 following the abrupt resignation of his predecessor, Najib Jung. He has completed a 5-year tenure, but his successor hadn't been appointed yet. The role of the Lieutenant Governor has been at the heart of an all-out power tussle between the Aam Aadmi Party government in Delhi and the BJP until a landmark Supreme Court judgment in 2018 had spelled out their respective powers more clearly. And finally, the 75th edition of the Cannes Film Festival is extra special for India for more than one reason. This year, the prestigious film festival is celebrating Indian cinema, and actor Deepika Padukone is also on jury duty. Well, she says this is just the beginning.
I think cinema is such a powerful tool and such a powerful medium. It has the ability to impact people's lives and touch and influence people's lives. So I think to forget for the next 2 weeks that we actually have this burden and this responsibility and actually just enjoy the creative process. I think that's sort of what we're all here to do. I think we're all creative people. I don't think any of us have the capacity to judge or to critique or to criticize or to, I think it's just to enjoy and to embrace the experience. I think, that's what we're all going to try and do. And there will come a day, I truly believe, where India won't have to be at Cannes, Cannes will be in India.